There's only one Bitcoin. Satoshi gave it as a gift to the world. There's no competitor. There's no second best. Why? Because someone created this, gave it away to the rest of us without any beneficial interest in it. That's what makes it unique, irreplaceable, special. That instead of technology risk, like the iPhone 15, Bitcoin is just money, 1/21 millionth of everything there's ever going to be. It's not going to actually obsolesce. It's immortal product. In 1,000 years, you're going to want to own 1/21 millionth of everything there is. In 100,000 years, you're going to want to own 1/21 millionth of everything there is.
What's up and welcome, guys. In today's episode, the bold predictions of Michael Saylor and Saylor and Lepard, who believe that Bitcoin is poised to not just 10x, but 10x again from its current value. Sound too good to be true? Well, we're here to tell you why their vision might not be as far-fetched as it seems. So let's dive into the realm of possibilities as we explore the factors that could propel Bitcoin to unprecedented heights. Based on some recent statements from GigaChad and Larry the Legend Lepard, put on your bullish war paint. Let's go.
So you're a killer?
Sir, yes, sir!
Let me see your war face.
Sir!
You got a war face? Ah! That's a war face. Now let me see your war face.
Ah!
Bullshit. You didn't convince me. Let me see your real war face.
Ah!
You don't scare me. Work on it.
Sir, yes, sir!
So let's get to some of the latest from GigaChad Michael Saylor. Bitcoin will 10x from here and 10x again. MicroStrategy's Michael Saylor. Saylor shared his insights into the future of the crypto space amidst regulatory scrutiny during the Bloomberg interview, in which he expressed optimism about the future value of Bitcoin due to U.S. regulators. Quote, the regulators do not see a clear path for shitcoins, cryptocurrency like stablecoins, crypto securities like tokens mentioned. Their view is crypto exchanges should trade and hold pure digital commodities like Bitcoin, said Saylor. He further forecasted that the recent actions of the U.S. regulators will cause a shift in the crypto industry back to Bitcoin and similar proof-of-work tokens. The entire industry is kind of destined to be rationalized down to the Bitcoin-focused industry with maybe half a dozen to a dozen other proof-of-work tokens, he explained. I think there has been a lot of confusion because of the 25,000 other shitcoins and because of all of the crypto securities angling themselves as the next Bitcoin. I think the public is now beginning to realize that Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin, Saylor added. Concerning the long-term outlook of Bitcoin's value, Michael Saylor repeated his bullish stance that Bitcoin would keep rising in value due to the realization that it is the dominant crypto asset. There is no second best. Quote, the next logical step is for Bitcoin to 10x from here and then 10x again. So eventually, I have confidence that the exchanges will come around to realizing that Bitcoin is really the dominant asset in the space. Always has been, always will be. More from Saylor. He says Bitcoin dominance is headed for 80% in the long term. A couple of passages here because very similar to the last article, but the next logical step again, Bitcoin to 10x, 10x again. Saylor also communicated that he sees a few bullish signs for Bitcoin on the horizon: the change in accounting standards, the upcoming Bitcoin halving, the explosion of hash rate, and the clarity that has come from the SEC's recent moves, laying the foundation for the next bull run. Eventually, U.S. exchanges will realize again that Bitcoin is the only really dominant asset. With Bitcoin's price increasing tenfold, the business model of the exchanges will just be fine while focusing only on Bitcoin, he added. Bitcoin's potential for exponential growth can be attributed to several factors, as Saylor stated, but firstly, the continued decline of the US dollar is a significant driver. As central banks print more money and governments accumulate debt, inflationary pressures weaken the purchasing power of fiat currencies, and this creates a demand for alternative stores of value, i.e. Bitcoin. The debt is going up forever, and thus, so is Bitcoin.
Let's go to Edward.
The CBO projects the federal deficit to be $2.8 trillion in 10 years. The CBO also says that federal debt will be $52 trillion by 2033. At what point do you talk more firmly with lawmakers about fiscal responsibility? Because I'm assuming monetary policy cannot handle alone the inflation or keep that inflation in check with the higher level of spending.
I don't do that. That's really not my job. I will say, and many of my predecessors have said, that we're on an unsustainable fiscal path, and that needs to be addressed over time. But I think trying to get into that with lawmakers would be kind of inappropriate, given our independence and our need to stick to our knitting.
Is there any conversation then about the Federal Reserve financing some of that debt that we're seeing come down the pike?
No, under no circumstances.
Additionally, the ongoing process of global de-dollarization further strengthens Bitcoin's appeal. Countries seeking to reduce their reliance on the US dollar as the global reserve currency are going to turn to Bitcoin as an alternative. This increased adoption could lead to a surge in demand and subsequently drive its value higher. And we covered this yesterday, so be sure to check that out, as it's possible 60 nations may be joining BRICS and Xi and Putin may be looking at Bitcoin. Another big driver, and we've covered this recently, is institutional adoption. Another crucial factor.
If you had $1 million today in your company or in your family, and you hold it in cash in the world reserve currency at a 7% inflation rate, in 100 years, you will have, in today's dollars, $977. You will go from 1 million to 1,000. You'll lose 1,000x. It's 1 divided by 2 to the 10th. If you take all your $1 million and buy government bonds yielding 3.5% interest, you're going to have a 3.5% negative real yield. Carry that for 100 years, you're going to have $31,000, 3% of your wealth. If you're brilliant and you invest in the S&P, you're going to have $1 million. You'll have the same value, the same wealth in 100 years you have right now, but no more. If you take half of it and invest it in Bitcoin, and the other half in the S&P, you're going to have $512 million. And if you go 100% Bitcoin, you're going to be a billionaire. All you got to do is flip your $1 million into Bitcoin, hold it at 7% real yield 100 years, and that's the money you have times 2 to the 10th. And so you can see in a very simple way, there's a winning strategy, there's a losing strategy.
As more mainstream financial institutions like the BlackRocks express interest in Bitcoin and they keep launching Bitcoin-related exchange-traded funds, it could open the floodgates for institutional investment. Be wary of paper Bitcoin. But the approval of a BlackRock ETF, for example, could attract significant capital inflows into Bitcoin, pushing its price upwards.
People on the planet, there are 21 million of these coins. You know, it's a very sound form of money. As more and more people come to see, you know, I should save in this money, the price is going to go, in my opinion, much higher. I mean, I think we'll hit 100,000, then I think we'll hit 1 million, then I think we'll ultimately hit $10 million a coin. I mean, I'm sure my grandkids will be shocked at people who own one whole coin. I mean, being a whole coiner will be a big deal. You know, that you've got two things going on here that support it. One, you've got an adoption curve. I mean, I was involved in investing in the internet. Reminds me a lot of the internet. You know, more and more people are becoming aware of it, more and more people are using it. The second thing you've got going on is you've got this underlying thing that's driving gold as well, which is the monetary debasement. So you've kind of got two trends that push it. One, just more and more people use it. And you really need to read a little bit about that. I highly recommend a book by Alex Gladstein called Check Your Financial Privilege, which tells you the story of how people are using it around the world, how the unbanked are using it. All you need is a smartphone, and you can make lightning transactions. And you know, there are poor women in Afghanistan doing technology work that couldn't figure out how to get paid. They're getting paid Bitcoin on their smartphone through the Lightning Network. And there are, you know, thousands of stories like that. Domestics working overseas, sending their money back in the form of Bitcoin so they don't have to pay the usurious fees to Western Union. So, you know, these kinds of applications, or we call them use cases, you know, are going to spread the development of this thing as time goes by. And I think within, so is it 2023? I think by the end of 2024, we'll definitely be at 100,000. I'll write that in stone, probably higher. I think by the way, at the end of 2024, I think gold will be well over 3,000, maybe 3,500 or higher.
And do you have an end of 2023 Bitcoin price
End of 2023
prediction?
for Bitcoin, what's it, 30 now? I guess at the end of the year, we'd be bumping up against the old high. We'd be kind of right at it, 67-ish, 68, something like that.
But you're not putting that in stone for me. You're putting 2024, 100,000 in stone?
Yeah, 2024, 100,000. I'll put that in stone. I think there's a high probability we're at 60 by the end of the year in Bitcoin. We're at 30 now. That's not that far out there. And I think there's a high probability we're at 3,000 in gold by the end of the year. And the reason I say this is I see the cracks in the financial system. The point I guess I'm trying to make is I think the intelligent people in the world, and ultimately most people get the joke and realize that that fiat currency is losing value consistently. And as that trend grows, people will go to Bitcoin. They'll go to Bitcoin, they'll go to gold, they'll go to property. Nobody's going to be stupid enough to buy bonds from a set of governments that have proven that they can't manage the currency correctly. So I think CBDCs could very easily be a parallel system to gold and Bitcoin as savings technology in a way. CBDCs, you would immediately, if I were paid in CBDCs, if they forced the whole world into CBDCs, I would immediately exchange. There'd be a CBDC gold exchange rate or a CBDC Bitcoin exchange rate. I'd immediately change it and I'd save in the hard currency. That's just Gresham's law. And I think, again, unless they outlaw or massively tax the alternatives, the system they've got, and this is why they're trying to block the exits. This is why they don't want, the choke point came around as a result of the fact that they don't want people exiting their system, right? They don't want you to go to the safe haven of Bitcoin. They don't want you to go to the safe haven of gold. They shit on them every chance they get. And yet, we all know that we can't trust their currency to hold value because of the way they behave. And we know that for a fact, and that's only going to get worse. And really the only thing, Michelle, that standing between us and hyperinflation is everybody coming to the conclusion that I've come to, which is that these currencies are doomed.
And Larry Lepard's driven this point home time and time again, but inflationary concerns play a role in Bitcoin's potential growth. As central banks around the world implement expansionary monetary policies to stimulate economies, the risk of inflation rises, and they can't get out of this. They're pinned in a corner. All they can do is print. It is the fate of fiat, and investors seeking refuge from all this inflationary pressure are going to turn to Bitcoin as a hedge against the devaluation of traditional fiat currencies, again, driving up demand and price. Finally, Bitcoin's scarcity adds to its appeal. It is the bearer asset. With a fixed, finite, limited supply of 21 million coins, scarcity ensures that as demand increases, so does the price. The concept of digital scarcity combined with increasing global awareness and adoption of Bitcoin creates a strong case for the bullishness from Saylor and Lepard. But guys, get ready. The winds of change are blowing in favor of the peaceful revolution. With all the events we've discussed today, it's clear we're witnessing the perfect storm for an immaculate Bitcoin bull run. So if you're not stacking, you're slacking. Hey, we want to wish all the fathers out there a wonderful Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to Satoshi, whether he be cryo-frozen or in cypherpunk heaven. And remember, if you want to stay up to date with the latest Bitcoin news, culture, analysis, don't miss Simply Bitcoin Live every day at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spread the sound money gospel. Together, let's keep hodling and keep believing in the power of the bright orange future. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.
Here's real world. In the last 2.5 years since MicroStrategy entered Bitcoin, Bitcoin has outperformed the S&P, the NASDAQ, gold, silver, and bonds. Bonds are destroying wealth. Silver is destroying wealth. Gold is destroying wealth. Bitcoin's crushing everybody. And you can say, well, what about MicroStrategy? All the guys on Twitter, they're all like Twitter trolls. Hey, you lost some money investing in Bitcoin. That's the MicroStrategy performance. That is your company on a Bitcoin standard. That is your family on a Bitcoin standard. See, you keep dollar cost averaging or Bitcoin cost averaging. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at what price you buy. What matters is you keep buying and you don't sell and you don't invest in the bonds, the silver, the gold, and the rest. The future? The world's in an economic war, but the world is beginning to realize Bitcoin is the superior asset. And as they realize that, Bitcoin is going to demonetize all these other assets over time. It's going to first demonetize gold, because gold doesn't make any sense, and then it's going to demonetize the other store of value assets, the real estate, the S&P index, the bonds. And so you're going to get a 30x bump as we demonetize gold, but there's no reason why you can't have a 500x increase in today's dollars by demonetizing these other things. And I'll end with this thought. We have laser eyes because laser eyes say focus on what you can change, save what you can save. In this particular case, you can make Bitcoin a success. You can tell the world about Bitcoin. No country can stop inflation. Nobody can stop inflation. I can put you in charge of the world. You cannot stop inflation. 99% of the companies, they cannot outrun inflation. 99% of the workers, they cannot outrun inflation. 1% may beat the market by skill and luck. Don't assume you'll be the 1%. Everybody can buy Bitcoin. So, buy Bitcoin. Thank you.